Imagine a world where the lavish palaces of the elite stand in stark contrast to the crumbling homes of the poor, where the sound of laughter and music echo through the halls of palaces, while the cries of the hungry and the oppressed fill the streets of the nation's decrepit cities. Welcome to the epic tale of the French Revolution, a story of power, passion, and betrayal. In this world, one woman was the focus of it all, Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France. Her life was a whirlwind of extravagance and excess, but also of love, loss, and ultimately tragedy. Join us as we delve into the dramatic and tumultuous world of Marie Antoinette and the French Revolution. Marie Antoinette was born in 1755, the 15th child of Empress Maria Theresa and Emperor Francis I of Austria. Growing up in the Grand Schönbrunn Palace, she enjoyed a privileged childhood filled with music, dance, and education. Then, at just 14 years old, she was sent off to be married to Louis Auguste, the future King Louis XVI of France, to strengthen the alliance between Austria and France. When Marie Antoinette arrived in France, she was thrust into the opulent world of the French court at Versailles. The palace was a symbol of absolute monarchy, with its glittering halls and elaborate gardens. As the new Dauphine, Marie Antoinette was expected to adapt quickly to the strict and often bizarre customs of the French aristocracy. For instance, during grand banquets, the food was not just about nourishment, but also a display of wealth and power. Elaborate sugar sculptures, peacock pies with the feathers still on, and live birds flying out of pies were not uncommon. Nobles had to follow strict rules about where they sat, who they could talk to, and even how they used their utensils. It was considered rude to show any sign of enjoying the food too much, as restraint was seen as a sign of nobility. Even something as simple as a fan could carry significant meaning. The way a woman held her fan, the way she opened and closed it, and even the way she waved it could convey different messages. Despite her initial struggles with the language and culture, Marie Antoinette soon became a fashion icon and a central figure at court. Her extravagant hairstyles and luxurious gowns set trends across Europe. Since arriving, shocked and uncomfortable as a young princess from Austria, Marie Antoinette was becoming very much at home in the extravagant French court. However, despite the grandeur, life at court could be stifling, with little privacy and constant scrutiny. Marie Antoinette found solace in her private estate, the Petit Trianon, a small palace within the grounds of Versailles. Here, she could escape the rigid court life and enjoy simpler pleasures, such as pretending to be a shepherdess. Life for the peasants, on the other hand, was very different. They typically lived in small, cramped cottages with thatched roofs and dirt floors, often shared with livestock. They worked long hours in the fields, tending crops like wheat and barley, and raising animals such as chickens and pigs. The living conditions were tough, with poor sanitation and limited access to clean water, leading to frequent illness. Their diet was basic and meager, consisting mostly of dark, coarse bread made from rye or barley, porridge, and root vegetables like turnips and onions. They seldom had the luxury of eating meat and would supplement their bland diet with whatever they could find by foraging, such as berries and nuts. The peasants were also taxed very heavily on everything they earned, while the aristocrats were able to get away with paying hardly anything. Many other laws existed which underlined the power of the rich and the powerlessness of the poor. For example, the king had the power to throw anyone in jail at whim without a trial. A law even existed called the droit de seigneur, which gave the lord of the manor the right to sleep with any newly married peasant bride on his estate on the first marriage night. The stark contrast between the opulence of Versailles and the poverty of the common people was a significant factor that led to the outbreak of the French Revolution as the poor began to demand justice and equality. All the while, Marie Antoinette's lavish spending, carefree attitude, and frequent escapes to the Petit Trianon began to draw criticism from those who saw her as out of touch with the common people's hardships. By 1789, France teetered on the edge of chaos. The nation was drowning in debt, partly due to the royal court's extravagant spending and costly wars. The common people were crushed under high taxes, food shortages, and skyrocketing bread prices. The air was thick with anger and desperation, setting the stage for a dramatic upheaval. Finally, the revolution ignited on July 14, 1789, with the storming of the Bastille. This medieval fortress and political prison in Paris symbolized the tyranny and oppression of the monarchy. Its fall represented the collapse of royal authority. Then, in October 1789, thousands of women, driven by hunger and rage, marched from Paris to Versailles. This became known as the Women's March on Versailles. They demanded bread and justice, storming the palace gates. The mob's relentless pressure forced the king, Marie Antoinette, and their children to leave the safety of Versailles and move to the Tuileries Palace in the center of Paris. With this, the royal family were now prisoners of the revolution. While Marie Antoinette was not responsible for the inequality and poverty suffered by most of the population, she became the symbol of all that was wrong with the old system. As the revolution gained momentum, her life became increasingly in danger. Because of this, in 1791, the royal family tried to escape France in a bid to seek foreign support and restore their power. Under cover of darkness, they snuck out of the palace in Paris to make their way to Montmédy, where there were soldiers waiting who were loyal to the king. Their plan was working until they got to a town called Varennes, where they were recognized. The king and queen were forced to return to Paris, where they were put under even stricter watch. The following year, the monarchy was abolished, and the royal family was imprisoned. Not long afterwards, King Louis was executed. This left Marie Antoinette alone to face the revolutionaries' wrath. Later that year, she was put on trial by the Revolutionary Tribunal. The charges against her included treason, depleting the national treasury, and even false accusations of incest. Marie Antoinette made a dignified defense, but despite this, she was found guilty. The sentence handed down to her was death by guillotine. On October 16, 1793, Marie Antoinette was executed. Her downfall marked the end of an era and underscored the revolution's relentless drive for change. While the revolution was driven by a desire for justice and equality, Marie Antoinette, the one-time princess from Austria, paid a heavy price for the problems which had built up over generations in the old French regime. If you enjoyed this video, click here to see more videos on the most epic and interesting stories of world history.